Hello and welcome everyone to this Reading Revolution workshop. And before we begin, there are just two things that I want to say. First, this is going to be interactive, which is going to be a very signature style of mine. And by interactive, I don't mean that you have to take notes because those will be provided to you. By interactive, what I mean is that you might have to type answers, or maybe if you want to unmute, you can unmute and reply to that because without that, this cannot go forward. So first one was that. And secondly, definitely when I'm saying regarding the notes, please don't worry about the notes. Every now and then you can take a bit of notes, but the whole thing would be provided to you. Okay. So there would be a whole PDF that will be provided to you. Okay. So once again, welcome, a very warm welcome to all of you to Writernaama. And your just attendance to this workshop or you coming on a Sunday afternoon tells me that all of you are serious for reading. So how many of you are serious for reading? Type a yes in the chat box. Give me a virtual thumbs up. Absolutely fine. Okay, Genevieve says yes. Shailendra says yes. Rest all are not serious. Rahul says yes. Cool. Okay. So here's the first thing. I'm not asking you to be serious. There's no need to be serious with reading because that's where the game totally goes downhill most of the times. Instead, let's take a pledge, or when I say that instead of being serious, let's be sincere about reading. That's the first mindset shift that I want to talk about before I even introduce myself. So when we say anyone who can tell me the difference why I used sincere and not serious here, anyone who is interested, if you want to unmute, surely unmute and tell me.
So I think sincere is a better term than serious because being serious sometimes may sound like little bit heavy also.
Okay, yes, interesting. The connotation is definitely the heavy versus light for sure. What else? Sincere versus serious. We don't need to be serious for reading, but definitely sincere for reading. What do you think is the difference?
I'd like to say,
Yes, Nina.
I'm doing it for fun.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's it. So I don't know if it's serious or not, but I'm doing it for fun.
Wonderful, wonderful. That also is a really good game changer. We'll talk about that as well.
Okay.
One thing also, I think when we are serious, we try to become more perfectionist, which delay things. We procrastinate a lot. And when we are sincere, then we keep on trying.
Absolutely. So yes, the word serious not just sounds very serious, but also has a lot of pressure in it. We often don't know because we may think like, okay, what's the use difference between serious and sincere? But every word plays a lot in forming your habits, thoughts, behaviors, and patterns. This is very deep, and it's just if I say serious can be the difference between this can be very well understood from one of the books that I've read, which is Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdal, and there he had mentioned this part that serious is way too much of pressure, way too much of, as Rahul also nicely mentioned, that way too much of perfection. And that perfection, when the perfection comes, there are a lot many benchmarks with come with it. There are a lot many things where, if this is happening this way, then it is a success. And that's where we get stuck into that loop of that rigid pattern. We get stuck into that loop of, okay, I missed it for 2 days and I cannot do it anymore. And that's where the perfectionist syndrome comes and creates a pressure on us. And that's what we are not looking at. We are looking at being sincere, where we are accepting that there may be days, just like bad hair days, there may be days where the bad reading days can happen, bad writing days can happen. And it all starts from there. It all starts from loosening up. It all starts from not comparing. It all starts from not going by the definitions that only if I'm doing this, then only it is called reading. Only if I'm doing that, then only it is called that. And trust me, while looking at my own journey, which I'll tell you how I and reading are connected, there are many things where I was stuck. One of them was this pattern of not considering audiobooks as books. I was very rigid on that. And I used to consider myself that whoever is doing audiobooks is not actually reading. But with time, when I learned NLP and I understood that, I realized that there are different ways people learn. Some people learn by reading, some people learn by listening more, some people learn by watching more. So some people get attracted with the kind of books which are very graphical in nature. So you cannot say that, one thing is right and one thing is not. It's just about finding what really clicks to you, and also finding what really clicks to you in what phase of your life, because that may keep on changing. So here, yes, Dr. Mehnosh has also expressed that sincere can be in playfulness too. It allows curiosity and loosening up. Yes, exactly. So that's what the serious and sincere. So before we begin, I would like to tell you about a little bit about me. Most of you know me, and those who don't, I hail. If I say the biggest introduction for me is books have been my siblings. So when I did not had human siblings, my father always used to say that it is not necessary that you have only humans as siblings. You can have books also as siblings. So I am getting you so many books. So why are you worried? Because people may have 2 or 3 siblings. Here I'm getting you two new siblings every month, which was Champak and Balhans back then. So that's how he started feeding my mind year by year, especially the Rakhi occasion. He used to make me put Rakhis through that because I was such a sulking baby. I was such a crying baby on Rakhi. So that's how he started filling my void. And that's how, before I knew, I started getting into the world of stories. And since then, I cannot recall my age. Maybe it would be that age where a person can read stories. So it was from that age that I was getting attached with reading, with the very emotional factor that these are my siblings. So that was a very emotional factor. With time, because this conditioning was there, it oftentimes became my coping mechanism as well, which later on I realized is not a good way, because I would never realize that whether I'm reading for fun or whether I'm reading because I want to escape something. So all those things came later as I understood myself, as I was discovering myself. But one thing that really mattered in all these years was coming home to myself through books. And I tried everything. I have done Reiki, I understood myself through NLP. But when it came to regulation, because my emotional factor was very much conditioned with the sibling part, every time when I was disconnected with reading, I used to feel a void in my life, because the ultimate meaning my mind was deciphering as, oh, the siblings are missing here because you're not reading. The siblings are missing because you're alone. So that was the kind of conditioning I had. Now, all of you, how many of you are thinking that we don't have such emotional conditioning, and how would we go forward? Or if somebody doesn't has that kind of emotional conditioning, then how to continue, or how to start, or how to resume this journey of reading? Okay, Rahul says, I did 75% reading through listening while walking. Wow, interesting. Now even I do that. Okay, so before we begin, I would like to ask one more thing to you, that what brings you here? What is your ultimate aim? Is it that something you're in a reading slump and you want to resume reading? You want to start reading? You don't know what to read. So what is that brings you here to this workshop? And meanwhile you're answering, I would tell you my recent story. And so my intro of this workshop has been that I have read 56 books this year. And trust me, this is not new to me, because as I said, my emotional conditioning was that way, that this used to be a normal pattern for me. It in between the years of when I started my coaching and when I was training myself as a coach and as a writing coach, I was occupied, or I would say that I was bit confused that, if I don't do this, if I don't get myself involved in coaching, maybe I will not be able to establish myself. And that's when I was completely focusing there. It's not that I lost touch with reading. I was reading, but my genre changed to non-fiction. My speed reduced because I was giving a lot many sessions. My speed reduced because I was making people write books. So I was connected to books. So it wasn't a complete void, but somewhere that reading habit, that was somewhere pinching me. And one habit which I think each one of us, whoever does journaling or has done reflection in their life, can agree with me that whenever I did reflection on what all things have happened, what all is going on, what is not working well, especially I do it at the year end always. And I give it full 15, 20 days time, sometimes even a month's time. Every day I pick up some prompt and I journal about it so that the whole year gets, I get a whole audit of that whole year. And that's when in 2025, I realized that it was a complete unconscious exile from reading that I had taken, and complete exile from reading fiction books, especially fiction, because that's where I started from. Especially fiction, because with time I realized that reading fiction had changed my writing in a better way. I used to write better answers. I used to understand difficult concepts through stories, thanks to my father, that he used to tell me different concepts through stories also. And that's how my mind was very much storified for everything. Even if my life, if today I say that I do good storytelling, that's only because, I was reading so many stories. I was witnessing my father, combining all the concepts together and making a story out of it to make me understand. And trust me, that power of fiction was realized when I guess in my whole school years, till the time I had history as a subject, I guess till 10th class I had. And not even a single time I opened my history book, not even a single time, because I was so scared of history. So I used to tell to my dad that, mujhe nahi padhna hai. You do whatever you do, you have to teach me and I will get minimum marks. And he used to, because he was a history MA also, plus he used to read for me. He used to storify the whole thing, that this used to be the king, aisa hua tha, this, that. And he used to tell me all that before exams. And I used to go and write the same thing. But since I had been reading fiction, my writing skills were really good. So the usage of words, the vocabulary, the sentences, everything was very good. And thus I used to get the highest marks over there. Which was very shocking to my friends, because they were like, you hate history and how come you score good in history? And I used to be like, I just don't know, because my dad tells me a story, I just write the stories over there. And later on with time, I realized when my teachers started telling me, when we passed the classes and I crossed those classes and met the teachers back, that the way you used to write was the real game changer. So fiction was something missing to my life. And due to this 2025 reflection, I finally decided that enough is enough. I have done my coaching. It's not that I'm done with coaching. I will never coach, but I'll take a break and I will go back to my reading, because to the core, if one identity that has shaped me a lot is a reader's identity. So I went back and I started reading. Initially, I took a bit of time to pick up the speed in January, but in January, after January, it was wonderful speed, because as and when you read, you train your mind for speed, you train your mind for comprehension, you train your mind for many other things also. So reading is not just for the reading is not just for the knowledge, reading is also to train your mind for many other things. And I will not go into the sermons of what reading does to you, because I'm very sure if you're here, you already know what reading does to you. Okay, so only two people have replied till the time I was blabbering. That Rahul says, out of curiosity, you are here. Wonderful, because I know you're already into reading so much. It's great. Nina says, want to get back to reading. Interesting. How about others? What brings you here? What is your, what do you want to get from here? What do you look at that after this, I want to achieve at least this much of that, or this much of that, or maybe I want to get back in touch with reading? What is it that brings you here? Genvi says to read more insightfully. Okay, interesting. Great. How about others? Shailendra says start reading again. Okay. Marvelous. Great. To see your method of being consistent. Very interesting, Parina. Great. So that anyway you will see. And Tarmila says, read more insightfully. Okay. Dr. Marinosh says, continue reading and now with a new perspective. Very interesting. Wonderful. Great. So whatever the objective has been, the point here, which I'm going to talk about is not about, read every day. I will talk about the science behind it. I will talk about it a little bit from the NLP perspective and everything, because it all comes back to understanding how your mind acts, how your mind works when you're reading and when you're not reading, when you are reading continuously and when you have stopped reading. All the answers can come with that awareness that what is really happening in your mind. Okay, so we'll understand it from that perspective. Okay. It will uncover many harsh beliefs as well, many things that you might not have been aware of. And I will keep giving my examples in that so that we all can connect to our own patterns that way. Okay. So with that, let's begin the very first part. And before I start, I'm again repeating, you don't need to take notes. I will be giving you the full-fledged PDF for that. So maybe a little bit of notes if you want to take, you can take, but otherwise I'm not using PPT. I'm just talking out and we will talk and we'll actually talk and converse together in this. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and I would like to know from you guys as well, why most people, I would not say fail at reading, but yes, the word is fail, or maybe they pause the reading or they struggle with reading. What do you think? What is the reason of struggling with reading? Please quickly either type your answers in the chat box. If you want to unmute, please unmute, but we'll have to interact because reading is just one part of learning, just one part. Trust me, reading doesn't change anything till the time you're conversing, talking about it and reflecting. So if that is not happening, consider that reading is just happening for fun. That is okay. But if you want to understand the book, grasp the book, and grasp the learnings, implement those, then the discussion, conversations, reflection is very important. Okay, so tell me, what makes people struggle with reading? Genevieve says, maintaining interest in the subject. Okay. That may be a struggle. Okay.
May I?
Yes, Heena.
I think it's just the social media and everything which distracts us.
Absolutely.
Basically, the screen, whether it's TV or whether it's phone, everybody's glued to their phone from morning till evening. And that's what is, and that's much easier, much more entertaining, much easier. You don't have to use your brains. So that's it.
Yes, yes. Interesting. Yes, that's also one of the reasons. Unable to squeeze reading into their schedule. Okay. Farina says distraction, time management. Interesting. Okay, let's go back to the times where we used to read school books. Okay. And there are two things which I want to talk about through that example or the reference back. School books. So every time when we were reading school books, textbooks, academic books, okay, we were always asked that, have you studied? Have you read? Have you sat at one place and, concentrated so much? How many of those times can you remember anybody asked you, did you enjoy reading? Did you enjoy reading your books or anything, any such thing? If anybody.
Well, I was very fortunate to be in an excellent school, South. And when I was in class 3, they encouraged us to listen to the new in the assembly. The headlines of the news were spoken, and we had to understand what those headlines meant. Class 3, imagine. After that, we always had a library period, but it was not just a library period. We were given a task that open a book which you can't issue out of the library and summarize whatever chapter you want to in that one period, and either write it down or talk about it when you're back to class. So I was very fortunate that way.
Wonderful.
And, yeah.
Awesome. So out of all of us, one came, and still somehow it's deeper than that, deeper than just making summaries. Because what I want to focus on is that the constant, Dr. Mehnosh says that we were encouraged to read, though never asked the question about enjoying reading. And that's where I guess Nina only shared that she reads for fun in the start. She reads because she just wants to enjoy that. And that's where the biggest, I would say, habit or mindset that comes into the scene. We have always looked at reading as something very heavy. Oh God, she reads or he reads. That person must be very intellectual. But most of the time, people who read or are avid readers are not the ones who are just wanting to learn, make notes, do summaries. Definitely, they do it because they enjoy reading, first of all. They enjoy, maybe some of them may enjoy the wordplay, some of them may enjoy the story structure, some of them may enjoy the dialogues, some of them may enjoy the how one chapter is connected to the other, some of them may enjoy, so different kind of genres can click to different people at different phases of their life, and there are different reasons to get connected to that, right? So enjoying that part and realizing that what you really enjoy is what can get you started and get you going. Now, coming to my own story, I'll give you one example. I knew from the start that I love fictions, but I also knew that I don't love classics back then. But again, as I said, different phases of life reintroduces different phases of reading to you. So back then, I had made an opinion in my mind that all those classic readers are the ones who are just going for the vocabulary, going for that high vocab language. And I don't want to get into that. So I will read contemporary fiction, the current fictions which are there. But I was very pretty scared that if I get into classics, I'll get a reading slump. And I might have got back then, because of maybe that kind of vocab, or maybe I might have read something which was not because I remember I reading when my reading my Champak and Balance used to get over, I used to look at my mother's bookshelf and I used to find things over there. And the first thing which I remember at 7 or 8 years of age, my first book was this thick, taken from my mother's library, and that was my Experiments with Truth by Mahatma Gandhi. Now imagine me reading that. I tried to pick up some classics and all that also, although she had it in Hindi. But then I went here and there and picked up some classics, and it really didn't go my alley. And that's where one conditioning happened in mind. Classics are banned. With time, and till now, this year only, I have restarted them just to challenge myself, just to see that, okay, now I'm in a different phase of life. Let me see the 6-year-old versus today who is about to turn 40. Let me see what has happened. And trust me, now this time the classics clicked. But this, I knew it already because I used to reflect a lot. I used to reflect that what kind of books I really like. So I was very sure that these are the kind of books I really like. And these are the kind of, that time back then, non-fiction was completely, I never read non-fiction, I guess, till 12th standard. Till then, I was completely into fictions, no non-fiction at all. Yeah, my Experiments with Truth, and if I get something like that, sometimes, how to pass an exam and with wonderful marks and all that. So that was done. Very, very few ones. So knowing what you really like is the answer I cannot give to you. But today, what you can do is start noticing what are those times when you are really in the flow of reading. You're not worrying about, oh, I have to make a note. Oh, I have to make a summary. Oh, this can be used there. Oh, that can be. But you are in the flow of reading. And sometimes you often lose track of time. That's when you're enjoying the reading. And for all those who are stuck, are in reading slump, want to start reading, pick up a book which gives you the enjoyment. Don't pick up the book which gives you the learning, especially in the start or at the time when you are coming out of reading slump. Because it is just like your mind is full of so many thoughts, or maybe you can say your stomach is already full with so many thoughts, so many fears, so many things, and on top of that you have imposed one more fear. See, look at this book. This is 1000-page book. This will teach us this. What will happen? Your mind will retract. It will react in a way that I don't want to read it. And every time you will try that, I want to start with an intellectual book. I want to be there. Definitely, it's not wrong. But the stage at which you are, that really matters. And that's what I did. I got a lot of flow with reading fictions, which always gives me a flow because fictions are effortless. I'm not saying insightless, I'm saying effortless. So fictions are effortless because there's a story flow. Non-fictions, definitely you have to wait and underline and understand and maybe connect the dots, put some notes, which I sometimes do in fictions also, but rarely. For one-time reading for fiction is in the flow only. So that's the first part. Reading, why we most of the time struggle with reading or get a reading slump is that we stop enjoying reading. And whenever that happens, just go back to a fiction book, whichever you like. I'm not suggesting, because again, what I like is something which you might not like. So I try not to recommend any book to people. Instead, I put a review on my Instagram that if the review is clicking to you, you can very well go and pick up the book. Recommending a book is like, I like this food, that's why you will also like it. But it's not a guarantee, right? So that's the first part that I wanted to talk about. The reason why we struggle is that reading is taken as a performance. And the first rewiring that has to happen is to get into the flow, is to get connected with the flow, reading, enjoyment, let the mind feel lighter and let it give it a signal that it is easy. Till the time, for any habit, regardless of reading, for any habit, for exercise also, why it is said that you take small steps, that your mind has to grab it easy. And I'm sure you must already be knowing this part, but understanding it from the point of view of what is the importance of enjoyment is something that I wanted to focus on. Okay, Biprajit says your current book is giving me that flow. Thank you so much. And I wrote my sixth book keeping that in mind only, that how can we read from fiction, especially for writers? How can writers get a lot of momentum with fiction, especially to develop that writing mindset? So I have tweaked some stories there, the fables, the hare and turtle fable, and there are many other fables. And then I have connected it with writing mindset. So you can grab it. The book is Your Writing is Calling. Okay, with that, let's move to the next point. Again, the same thing. Why do you think that the reading gets hampered or we struggle? Few reasons you have already given. What apart from that, do you think that why do we struggle with reading? Why do we struggle with reading? Any more ideas apart from this?
Because it's a dedicated space we have to be in. We can't multitask like we can do with other activities.
Yeah. Yes,
Like
that's
watching
also
TV and having dinner. You can have dinner and read also, but not really. So I think that's one of the main reasons. That's you really have to be focused and dedicated. And
okay.
there's so many distractions which are so much easier to do. So we fall into that, I guess.
Okay, interesting.
So for me, it is reverse. Whenever there is any struggle in life, I read.
Yeah,
There is no struggle in reading.
I am with you on that because, as I said, it had become my coping mechanism also. And even these times, now I look at it this way that if I'm into an emotional turmoil or there's something going on, I'm so confused and anxious, rather than argumenting with somebody, I either write it out or I just give myself that space. Okay, let the emotions come down. Only for that, I read. Only for that time. And definitely the mind is there, it is doing the processing, but at least I'm stopping it from reacting immediately. So just to stop that reaction, I just read, and then I come back to the point where I'm stuck at, and definitely do the journaling and all. So I do it very consciously these days, that, but I agree with you, Rahul, that now it has become that way, that whenever there's something, I either read or write. Okay, Charmila says not prioritizing is also one of the can be one of the struggles. Yes, lack of clear insight on what to read, what to use after reading, how to or what to use after reading is one reason for struggling to read. Okay. How to use the book is what you want to say, Bhagwati, right? Okay. So whether it is prioritizing or understanding how to read the book, or whether it is about uh, squeezing the time, managing the interest. Okay, I'm reading the answers that you all had given me. Or so all these things come to one part. Your interest and your priority will happen if you want. Okay, nothing else. Because if you look at your life, let's take some examples where you're doing things consistently. Leave about reading. It can be exercise. It can be going daily to office. It can be about making food for your family. It can be anything. Okay. We all are consistent somewhere in our life. It's not like that we are inconsistent in reading, so we are inconsistent in life. Right. So when you look at, let's say, for example, I have to cook daily for my son, for my family. Okay. And I am consistent there because I have a reason that obviously I want a healthy family and I take time for that and I sort out vegetables and everything and all those processes happen. But we all have an emotional why behind that. If you're going to job regularly, you definitely have an emotional why that you might be the principal bread earner or any other thing. But there's an emotional reason attached to this, right? And same thing when we come to reading. And that emotional reason is one part. But making it interesting is another part. When these two things come together, it becomes the priority. You start making time rather than not having or having time. So these two things happen. And all these things, interest, priority, start making time. All this happens when you pick up the right book, not the wrong one at the wrong time. And it happens. There is a right book at the right time, which will call you. And that has happened so many times with me. Recent example is 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. That book I had twice tried to read. I had read 50 around pages both the times, or 60 around, I don't remember. I tried it every year. Like, I don't remember the year, but I remember 2 years I tried, but I could not go ahead than that. Instead, I had to defend myself. So I started telling to myself that it's not about you not liking the book. It's about, this being a romance book, 40 Rules of Love. There must be something regarding romance. You don't want to read romance. People who want to read romance, they don't have any other better work. So they read it. That's the self-talk that was going on in my mind so far. This year, as I said, 2025, I did a lot of reflection. I wrote down all the thoughts why reading was not, I'm not reading this book because, and I wrote all the reasons that my mind was saying. And that's when it came out. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of judgment that is coming just because I am safeguarding myself that, okay, I'm not reading this book. So let's be honest with myself and let's read with open mind. And I said this to myself. And this year I picked up 40 Rules of Love again. And this time the book not just clicked, it really, really enchanted me to the level that I ordered a hardcover also just to cherish that. So I'm not saying that you have to convince yourself for every book, but what I'm saying here is first, you need to check what are your thoughts behind that book. Second, which phase of life you are in. Maybe you are in a phase where you don't want to read romance. That's fine. Maybe you are in a phase where you don't want to read about grief. Already so grief stricken, maybe. Or some people process grief through reading grief related books. So you have to, it's all about finding yourself through reading. So it's a very deeper game than what we are thinking, but not a tougher game. Very simple, very interesting. And the moment you will start uncovering all these things, you will start knowing yourself even better. There used to be times when I used to avoid sad books. I used to avoid books on grief. And I realized that that was the time when I lost my dad. I did not want to process those emotions. I did not want to feel those emotions again, not process. I definitely wanted to process, but not this way. I did not want to feel them again. I did not want to cry again. So I was avoiding that. But now the time has passed. I understood myself and I did a reflection exercise in detail, which I will be sharing with you guys also. So that helped me a lot to understand, okay, these are the things that were going in my mind. These were my situations. And that is why those books were wrong books back then, but now they are clicking. So what I'm saying is picking a right book also really matters. And Somebody is recommending a book, you trust them, fine, but don't go blindfold whether the person is someone who is putting you in pedestal also. You go to the blurb, check it. If it is clicking to you, it's calling you, then you go ahead. And that's how you make the book interesting. That's how you trust yourself more than anybody else. And that's where the interest and the priority will come from, because inside your mind will know that this is the book I have chosen. This is the book that has clicked to me. Not because somebody is recommended, not because a book club is having a book of the month. Trust me, I am that kind of person who has my own book club, and there have been times where I have declared the book book of the month in my book club, and I myself hadn't read it, because when I started reading after 50 pages, it did not click to me. And on one side, I was guilt stricken that what kind of coach I am, or what kind of book club I'm holding. I myself am not reading. Not all of them, but few of them were like, I did not read them. But with time, I realized that actually the message that I'm giving here is that connect with your book. If it is not connecting with you, that's fine. No, don't make it performative, pressure centric. Okay, somebody has recommended it. It's on Instagram. It's doing so much of rounds. I have seen this book doing, so I have to read this. That's where, if your mind is not clicking with that, you'll get a reading slump. You'll get some or the other hindrance over there. So pick up the book according to your choice. And we'll do an exercise in the end for all this. One more thing that we've already talked about, I don't have time. So I'm not, how many of you think that you don't have time for reading? And second question, or a follow-up question to that, is if you're saying I don't have time for reading, how much time do you think you don't have for reading? Is it 1 hour you don't have for reading? Is it 2 hours you don't have for reading? Is it whole day you don't have for reading? Is it half an hour you don't have for reading? Just clarify that today, because we often say it very unconsciously, I don't have time for reading, I have job, I have this. But how much time are you really looking forward to? I would love to know your answers. Yes, zeal, yes. But this realization that 10 minutes are enough for you to read, I'm sure it must have come after a lot of legwork to train your mind or to look at the things this way, that small
Yes,
steps
Heena.
really matter.
Yeah. Sorry, I just joined now. I'm so sorry I missed the earlier part.
That's okay. That's okay. You can catch up on the recording.
Yeah.
So how did you train your mind for this? Like, what were the hurdles earlier? What were your earlier thoughts?
So when I was reading a lot during my initial 2019, like pre-COVID era, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
I was having not that much responsibilities in my work also. I was having that time, to read the books. And at that point of time, I think I used to not reflect that much from the writer's perspective. It was only a reader through me who used to enjoy reading stories, imagining everything. But after I wrote my first book, I understood the flow. I understood like how can I, absorb the information and how can I use it in my writing. So now when I read it very, very consciously from the writer's perspective as well, not only a reader, but also as a writer. So I think now I have slowed down a lot. That is why I take a lot of time. And, earlier I used to read like 3 to 4 books at parallel. Also, I used to read, like I used to read fiction, non-fiction. I used to finish one book in 3 days. Now I only read one book at a time, because I want to absorb that information, because I want to understand the like how they are writing, what is the uh, I mean, how they are writing very well, how I can use the same kind of information in my book as well. So now I have slowed down that way. So I think for me now it's like knowing more from a writer's perspective rather than a reader's perspective. So 10 minutes, I think I just have limited it, that, okay, this 10 minutes is for me, not for anyone else. I know there are a lot of work responsibilities, health, everything is there. But 10 minutes, I'll just reserve for myself without any distraction and understand the journey of this. So that's how I have broken down it into a flow, I mean.
Okay, very interesting. So
Thank
yes,
you.
that's what 10 minutes. Kya? Charmila has said 5 minutes. I'm saying 2 minutes. Today's example, let's take today's example. I went to the pool and I went with my husband, and even though I make sure I carry my book in some way or the other, maybe in phone, maybe in Kindle, some way or the other. So my husband gets very irritated if I carry a book. So I carried my phone with me that, okay, if he looks or if he gets a call, I'll utilize that time. So that is there in my mind that the moment I'll get 1 minute, 2 minute free, I'll utilize my time. So he got a call just for a minute. And I started reading, I started getting the flow in the book. And he said, Chalo, let's go, we are done. The earlier version of me would have bombarded on him. Arey yaar, I've just started reading this, that, and then there would be a tussle and all that and all husband-wife stuff. Now I was very cool about it. I just took a deep breath and I told myself that fine, at least you read for a minute. That's worth celebrating. And later on, you can continue. It's not like whole day you will be in kitchen, or even if you're in kitchen, you're alone. So if you want to listen to an audiobook, you can. So I keep talking to myself because so that I understand that, okay, this is not the only time. You're not losing on anything. You're not running a race. It's fine. 1 minute is fine. So that way I started training my mind that even 1 minute is okay. So in between the days, if you're thinking that my 56 books have got completed because only I was reading paperbacks, no. Out of 56, I guess 10 to 12 or 13, 14 or 15 maybe are audiobooks, first of all. So I was cooking and I was listening. I was walking and I was listening. I was doing some chores where I was just doing the robotic task, something where I am not needed consciously. There I was listening. So that's how I managed it. And that's how I started training my mind. Zeel, you raised your hand. You want to say something?
No, sorry, it was by mistake.
Okay. All right. So we have talked about reading for enjoyment, reading the right book, and knowing that what is right for you is your task, not mine. I can help you. The group is always open. If you are stuck anywhere that I'm not able to understand which is the right book for me, I can help you there, but not in a group session because everyone has a different kind of problem set, phases, preferences in life. So that cannot be resolved here, but that can definitely be resolved in the group over there. Genevieve says, I need to be in a comfortable space and read and also remembering where I stopped earlier. So trust me, I have all the things that you are saying. I used to have all the things. I have made myself, I've broken free from all these. I don't need a comfortable space anymore because I challenged myself to read in metro, read where you're being pushed. If you're not able to hold the book, listen to the audiobook because you are a reader, and a reader does whatever it takes, whatsoever time they get, but they read. Whether it is through audiobooks doesn't matter, whether it is through paperback doesn't matter, whether it is sometimes it so happens that I have some reading buddies with me that in fact I had once told Zeel also to tell me about a book which I was finding difficult because it was very much into grief and layered. I told her that you tell me about the book. So through her also, I just read books while flipping the pages. And that was with one book in these 56 books that I could not read it, but still I wanted to read it. So I told her that you are reading it, you tell it to me, I will flip the pages and I'll connect the dots somehow and I'll do it that way. But I'm a reader, so I'll do it. So first thing that changed was I started thinking myself as a reader. Every time I used to think that way. If things were not working, I was interrupted, I would always ask this question, and I still ask myself, what would a reader do here? A reader will not be frustrated. A reader knows that, fine, abhi nahi hua. Just like a mother knows. A mother knows that today the food was not good, doesn't mean that the food will be bad tomorrow. And similarly, today the food is very good. She knows that every day she'll have to make the same effort. It's not like today she has made, although some things become automatic, some things become robotic, but still there are few things you have to make according to different people's recipes. You have to remember, okay, this person likes it that way, this person likes it that way. So that effort is there. But all this becomes very easy, very nourishing. Why? Because the mother's identity. I'm a mother, so I'll do it. I'm a mother, so I'll do it. So It's just like that. So the reader's identity is also a game changer. Next is a very interesting one. How many of you have done this, that you started reading, maybe a page, maybe 5 lines, doesn't matter. And you continued it for a week and then you missed it. And just because you missed it for 2 days, you stopped. I have done it many times. I started telling myself, look at you, what kind of reader are you? You call yourself a reader and you did not read the whole day. What is this? And what an irony, what a hypocrisy. And all those self-sabotaging talks used to happen in my mind, which even now happen. I'm not saying they don't happen, but I now know how to manage them. So they will keep on happening even when you get the flow in reading. The point here is that you will know then how to manage these talks, how to shush them down, how to talk back to them so that they become quiet and your voice becomes louder. Yes, Charmila has done it before. So basically the guilt trip is something which we need to come out. There might be times where the whole you might not be able to read. There can be those times also. And it has happened with me. And it right now, in fact, if I talk about my current reading pace from last 2-3 days, it has slowed down because my husband is here in the town. Now, in fact, to one of my book buddies, I even expressed that, after having so much of flow in reading, I'm confessing this to you. It's a very rude thing to think, but sometimes I'm feeling like everybody else is kebab mein haddi because I am getting my reading hampered here. So my husband is coming, he's a kebab mein haddi. So she was like, yeah, it happens. So I was like, yeah, fine. I understand. But then how things have shifted this way, rather than getting frustrated, I'm just looking at it that way because, my romantic reading relationship is getting hampered by somebody else. So it was just that way. I took it in a fun way. Yeah, it's the most common thing. So the point here is that acceptance, it will happen. It is life. You may be consistent in everything. Even if we think about cooking, there are times when we don't want to cook also. There will be times where you don't want to read also. Rather than forcing in those times, shift your format. Maybe reading paperbacks versus shifting to audiobooks. Maybe if your books are out of mind, okay, I'm done with books. There are phases that come in my life where I'm like, okay, fine, bahut sara books ho gaya. So let me shift to movies for some times. And that's okay. As long as you are keeping it interesting for some time, you know that you will get back because you are a reader. So that's okay. The acceptance is the main key. You will miss on. That acceptance has to come. Now that I've accepted that the missing will happen, the pace will go slow. There will be things which will need my attention. In those days, my reading pace will be slow, like in these days. So it's slower. Earlier, I was reading 100, 150 pages every day. Now I'm reading just 30, 40 pages with effort. So that's fine. I'm keep telling myself that, okay, I'm reading, I'm doing my minimum. I want to read, fine. The days I don't want to read, I will skip it. That's fine. So having the identity, but not making it a pressure or not making it serious is something that will keep you going and will help you to come out of that whole reading, not reading spiral. Okay, next, which is very interesting. And who mentioned, I forgot, but somebody mentioned that distractions, or I would call it the attention economy working at its best and stealing your attention and you're giving it away. And that's where I'm not saying that you are giving it away with your own will. I'm sure we want to read, but we don't end up reading because there are screens and there is everything. There are reels which are very interesting. What really is happening in our mind, and I'll not go very deeper because we all know the side effects as well. In one word, if I would say, scrolling the reels makes you overstimulated because it's not one topic. The mind is shifting every 30 seconds. It's like one thing is news, other thing is a funny reel, then other thing is cooking reel, then other thing is health, and your mind is like, what is happening? It's like, you're throwing your mind into different lives. Now you're living this life, 30 seconds out, 30 seconds, then this, then 30 seconds that. And the mind is like, what really is happening? I'm not able to make sense of it. And that's where the overstimulation begins, which means your mind is not really able to think. It's just like the dopamine hits are happening. You're getting like, okay, I'm getting a good feel, but you're not really able to think. You're not really able to retain any information. Even though you're saving the reel, at least I'm the one who doesn't go back to those saved reels for sure. And it's not the pause that is required, the imagination that is required. None of that is happening. So actually, what we are doing, not just supporting the attention economy, but also robbing our mind of the essential skills that reading does to us. And the more we read, and the more we see the difference in our own regulated self, is what I would say. Reading makes me more regulated. Once I read even 3 pages and close the book, and I don't jump to the screen just after that. If I do, I just do it for my community. If I'm sharing something, that's fine. But I make sure that before reading and after reading, I'll not open the phone, so that the experience stays with me. And that experience is beyond words. That regulation is something that you get a piece in, and I'm sure each one of us has experienced that regulation, experienced that level of peace when you are reading even a page. I'm not talking about you have to read 100 pages in order to experience that. So that also is one of the parts. We need to just realize that it is the environmental design which is working here, and what we can do about it, which we already know, that keeping the phones away. I make sure that I have book almost in every room apart from the guest room. I have books everywhere. So in this room, there are books. Next to me, there are books. I have Kindle, there are books. I have most of the apps which are books related only. So I have designed my environment that way. I have kept control of my environment rather than the environment controlling and having those futile apps in my phone. Not all that. Because I'm a reader, again, the identity is working. I have to design my environment that way. So there are books at my bedside, in front of me. And the more you see, again, going back to the James Clear's Atomic Habits, making it visible. Making it visible is very important. So how many times you carry your books, and yes, that can be one of the questions you can think about. How many times you carry your books along with you, regardless of knowing that this is the place I won't be able to read. Like today I went to swimming pool. I knew that my son is there, my husband is there. I won't be able to read. But then I thought, okay, what if he gets a call? What will I do? I don't want to scroll that time. I'm a reader. So I would rather read. So I told this to myself. And then I went with the phone. And the moment he got a call, I started reading. So designing your environment really matters. Now, before we go ahead to the next part, which is reader psychology, to understand how reading shapes your mind and what all it does to your mind, I want to ask you this. What environment designing you have already done in order to continue reading, or you will do from today onwards? Both of the things, any of that you can answer. If you already have designed your environment, you can talk about that. Many people will get many takeaways from there. It's not just about carrying the books or having books all around it. It's about, just like I'm not having most of the apps which are entertaining. Just Instagram is used for my own sharing, but not most of the apps, because I have most of the apps which are reading related. So that's one of the environment design that I've done. How about you guys? What would you be doing from now onwards, or what you already have been doing that is working for you in the environment design for you as a reader? Yes, Rahul.
So there are many ways which I have been using. So first of all, you can subscribe to important newsletters of important authors or important apps. So every day in the morning, these mails will be sitting right there in your inbox. So first thing you will see is the books connected something. Second is follow enough pages, book related on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever. जहाँ भी आप जाते हैं तो आपको बुक्स के सिवा कुछ दिखाई नहीं देगा फिर. एंड ऐसे सर्कल्स में रहिए, ऐसे ग्रुप्स में रहिए, आपके फ्रेंड्स ही सारे ऐसे हों. तो मुझे तो कुछ ऐसा नजर नहीं आता बुक्स के अलावा कुछ और है भी है क्या. तो सारे फ्रेंड्स वैसे हैं, सारे ग्रुप्स वैसे हैं. तो इट्स वेरी सिंपल एक्चुअली. जो एटॉमिक हैबिट्स के जो 4 लॉज है ना, वो चारों अप्लाई हो जाते हैं. मेक इट ऑब्वियस, मेक इट इजी, मेक इट अट्रैक्टिव, मेक इट सेटिस्फाइंग. तो इट्स क्वाइट इजी देन.
Yes, yes. a very good point Rahul has raised, which I did not say by myself, and I wanted somebody else to say it, the power of being surrounded by such people. It definitely happens that in our family, not everybody would be a reader. I don't have any reader in my family, at least in the closest one with whom I live. My husband is far, far away from reading. But if I want to keep up with my reading, like he says that you guys are far, far away from politics, but he wants to keep touch with politics and news. He makes his time. He does all the things that are required. He has designed his environment, his phone, everything that way. So the moment he'll get time, he'll watch news, he'll watch debates, he'll open YouTube. He has few fixed channels. All those things he has already designed. So even if the feed is coming, it's related to the debates and everything and all the things that he's very interested in. And same thing I have done. So when I look at his phone, we often sometimes throw jibes at each other. Kya tumhare phone mein sara din, there are some news going on. And he tells me, tumhare phone mein every time books. If I open, wallpaper is a book. If I see WhatsApp, so many book clubs. If I see your Instagram, ek ke baad ek Instagram pe bhi books ki reels. So ultimately you are just trapped there. And I say the same thing to him. But basically, if we look deeper into this, it's about environment design. That when you start thinking yourself as a reader, that what a reader would do. A reader would love to stay in touch with people who read. A reader would love to interact about the books. And that all happens with the communities, definitely. And that's why I don't interact with every book club, by the way. If you think that itne sare book club ka part hai, to kya yahi karti rehti hai. So no, I have chosen my 2 or 3 book clubs, including mine, where I interact. And often I interact the same thing. If I've written a review, I will copy paste the same in others. I will, at the end of the day, I will read my 2-3 favorite book clubs, what all they have said. And if I want to ask any questions, I'll do. That keeps me going because I see so many people being excited about books, like books are magic. And we definitely are the sum of 5 people around us. So I make sure if the 5 people around me physically are not reading, the 5 or 50 people around me online are all readers. Yes, Zeel.
Yeah, so Hina, on the same note, I just wanted to say that the environment really helps. So I have a bookshelf where all the books are there stacked, and the current book, which like any book which I'm reading, I always keep it on the side table of my bed. So I wake up and then after some time I start reading for 10 minutes, and so it helps. The environment basically helps. Then we always discuss about books, like you and me, and then few other friends with whom they are always talking about books. So I think people and environment, it really helps. And also following the other people who are reading, who are into reading and who takes the reading seriously. So all these things really helps to just be there on your reading journey.
Yes, I totally agree with that. So before we move forward, there was one thing which I noticed in few of the answers here in the chat box, that I want to take away the insights in a better way from a book, right? And whether it is a fiction book or non-fiction book, one thing that you can do and one thing that will definitely change the game, and this thing will not require you much of time. I'm telling you, you will not need to go back to the things that you have underlined. You will not need to go back to the notes. If you're doing that, well and good, much better. But if you don't have time and still you want that, I've read the book now, I should be able to remember it, or, how do I remember? How do I implement even one single thing out of it? If that's something that's going on your mind, the simplest way to do that is to write a review on that. Whether you're posting it on social media or not, that doesn't matter. I have started doing it consciously as a social responsibility so that I'm answerable to people now. Now, after 56 books, if I stop, people will ask me what happened. And that would make me think, oh, yes. So I'm doing it consciously so that I wanted to do it on social media so that I have a social responsibility as well. Otherwise, there was no other thing that I want to show off about it. It was about my own accountability factor. Because of that, I'm doing that. And I don't know, I never thought about it that it will become an inspiration and all that. I never thought about it. I was just so involved in my reclaiming my reading self again, that I was just like that. I will do whatever it takes. If it looks like I'm showing off, let it be. I don't care. I just care about that. I want to get back to reading. Whatever it takes, I will do it. And for some time, my husband was very finicky about this, and he was like, what are you doing? I mean, you're reading. When I was 20 odd books down back then, he once told me that, you read, are you even reading, or are you just not even grasping? I said, okay, to make sure I'm grasping, I'm posting the reviews. And that is why I remember all that. Because what really happens when you're posting the review, even if two people are reading there, if you're posting reviews in 2, 3 book clubs, even if two people are reading there, those total 6 people will respond to you, whether they have read the book or this looks interesting. And that's how somebody who has read the book will also start giving opinions there. Oh, I did not notice this part, and I noticed all these parts. And that's how your awareness about the book, or your outlook perspective about the book, expands. That's how you help each other to grow as readers. And that really has helped me a lot to write all the 56 reviews. And it did not take me much of the time, because I followed a rule. The moment I'll finish the book, within 2 days I will have to write the reviews, because after that then I forget the book. So initially, I was very strict that I will not start the next book till the time I write the review of it. So the moment I used to close the book, I used to take deep breaths. I used to think about it for 2 minutes, and then I used to write it on pen and paper. And then I used to dictate it, to type it, and I used to post it. With time, when I became habitual, okay, I will be able to remember the book at least for 2 days. So I started giving myself time, and I used to jump on to the next book, and then I used to write the review. And that rule is still on. It has helped me to a lot, because the speed at which, because as you read, as I said, your speed will increase. There are many things which we'll talk about speed reading in later sessions also. But the speed, when the speed increased, I was scared, because sometimes people say that speed reading is not deep reading. You have to slow down. I wanted to break free of everything. I wanted to challenge myself on everything. So I was like, I will not think about anything. If I'm going fast, I'll go fast. If I'm going slow, I'll go slow. If romance is giving me flow, I will go with romance. Whatever is giving me flow, my main target is to resume reading the way I used to read, the way I used to devour the books earlier. And so I had my point clear. What is my goal? My goal was to get the flow in reading. Now, how it is coming, which book is coming, that is not my concern. My concern is I have to get the flow in reading. So with that, before we begin, one more question to all of you, and it would help you to understand your reading journey better. What is your objective? We have already talked about that. But what is that one goal? As I said, my goal was to get the flow of reading. After getting the flow, my goal has changed. Now, gradually, I'm moving towards the part where I'm reading good books, heavier books, classic books, which I had lost in touch with. So I'm getting in touch with that. So every time after 10, 15 or 5, 6 books, depends on where you feel satiated. I felt satiated after 30, 40 books, that, okay, I've got the flow now. Now next, let's think about next goal. Next goal is to remove the fear of classics. So I removed the fear of classics. I started picking up classics gradually. And then I don't know what the next goal will be, because it all depends on my reflection, which I keep on doing. So what is your current goal in reading? If you're already reading, then what is your current goal? If you're not reading, what is your current goal in reading? Not, I'm saying current goal. It may change with time. Don't worry. And it will change with time. Thank yourself for that, that it is changing. It means you're evolving. You can unmute also and tell me your current goal of reading. Like Zeel has mentioned that her current can be the goal, that to understand reading from writing's perspective. For that, she thinks that she might need to go slow, and in this much of time only this can happen, and that's fine. That's her definition. And if that's giving her benefit, nothing like it. She doesn't need to compare it with, oh, somebody else's, or Heena is reading this much, or is she even getting the gist of it, or what. She is going on her own journey, and she's at peace with it. And that's what really matters. And that's what has given her the flow to read, I think, every single day almost, which we have been in touch. So I think almost every single day she reads. Okay, there are days, 2-3 days where you don't read, and that's fine. Yes, Zid, you unmuted.
Yeah, the same thing I also wanted to say. You just said everything.
Yeah,
That, understanding from writer's perspective, and also reading different kind of books, like not only romance but thriller, and also build that kind of I also want to try different genre of
yeah,
writing. Like when I used to read Divya Prakash Dubey's books, I got really fond of writing in Hindi, and we discussed about that idea as well, that how to do this. But I mean, thanks to you for introducing me to Hindi writing. So I think that thing is very important to not limit yourself to just particular one genre, but also exploring different kind of writing. So that is something which I'm having that goal in 2026, to further break it down into different genres, try different like short stories, then I mean different like psychological thriller, that kind of genre also. I want to explore my writing into that.
Wonderful.
So that is something which I'm looking forward.
Great. Awesome. And she is already taking action, so I'm not asking her. I can ask people who are typing in the chat box. Charmila says, I would like to understand the book as a critic would. Okay, so follow-up question is, what action will you be taking, or have you started taking towards this? What is a tiny action? How would you do that? Think about it. If you're not thinking, you don't need to answer me immediately. It's just for your own reflection, because that's how I do my own reflections. If one answer comes, I ask myself, just like there are two selves sitting and talking, I ask myself again a question, and then I write about that. Okay, how would I do that? How would I make sure? Obviously, I need to do something different than what I'm doing right now if my goal is different. So how would I bring that difference through which small action? How would you make sure? Maybe answers may differ to different people. Somebody may like to read book reviews in, good newspapers give good book reviews sometimes. So maybe somebody like to read that and then pick up the book and then look at it and then write the review, the critic part. Some may do annotations there, which they might not be doing. So if your first question's answer has been described well, which I don't see here, one of them has replied, I can ask follow-up questions to that can help you to go deeper into reading. Take few days to understand the game of reading, so that it doesn't go away just like that, just something happened in my life and reading took a back seat. Every time reading takes a back seat, that will stop happening once you start understanding your mind this way, dissecting this way. It took me a whole month of reflection, but and that time I did not read a single book. I was like, I will just do the reflection. I'll do as many questions as I can. I took help of some challenges which were going on in year end. One of that was Mehnosh sir's also, where I did that. And apart from that, I did my own questions. I did my own reflections. I asked myself, I'm an NLP trainer. So I asked myself that way. I imbibed the identity. I did a lot of work. And then finally, when I stepped into 2026, I was very clear. What do I really want? Okay. Next comes the reading psychology, how your brain actually processes books. Okay. Here is something that you may or may not have heard, but that might be shocking. Humans were not born to read. And definitely that time there were not books in the Stone Age, right? So that time our mind was not wired or conditioned that way to read from one place to the other, to train your eyes that way. Our eyes were trained for looking into the directions in far distances, where we were finding, maybe in Stone Age, they were finding their animals to, those things they were doing. They're finding their enemies or all those things, hunting animals, all those things were happening. So our eyes were not really trained. So reading is just about, okay, tell me how many years reading has started happening. The civilization or the Stone Age has happened long back, but how long, since when the reading started happening? So let me tell you, reading is just 5,000 years old only.
Oh
Not
my
very,
God.
yes. So the brain has to rewire itself to make it possible. So if you're feeling that I'm struggling in reading, oh my God, it's natural. It's natural, first of all. Don't think that I'm the odd one out, I'm the mad one out, I'm the idiot one out, that I'm not able to read. It's all about training your mind. We were earlier trained for, our mind still reacts in that way, right? We still think that there is a threat. If somebody scolds us, the minds, that part gets activated, which used to get activated when the lion was hunting us, lion was behind us. The same mind, the amygdala gets activated, right? And then we react, although there is no lion in front of us. So our mind is hardwired that way. With time, what we have realized to manage that stress. And similarly here, we have to train our mind. So every time you read, your brain is doing something it was never originally designed to do. Okay? This doesn't mean, oh, okay, then why do I need to read? Or, but since we know we need to train our mind, the resistance that you feel is what I'm talking about. To open a book is not about laziness. It's just your ancient brain that is meeting a modern skill. Okay. So the discomfort is actually biological. It happens in your body. It's not personal. You're not lazy. So now with time, all these things, by understanding this, we are loosening up. That's what is happening. Why we are trying to understand this is that we are loosening up on these things. We are not making a mountain out of molehill. Oh my God, I'm not feeling like reading. It means I'm the idiot one, or I'm not made for reading. And all those things used to go in my mind when whenever I had lost touch with reading in past times. I used to self-sabotage myself like anything. I used to tell myself, okay, look at you, this, that. And then gradually, when I did a lot of research, I realized, okay, it's actually my mind. And I need to train it. It's just like a pet. You need to train it. So that when you can train a pet, you can train your mind also. Next is when your eyes are actually moving. How many of you think that we read line to line, even if we are going slow?
Yeah, I definitely do. Like with my hands or pencil, it's moving. I mean, line
Okay,
by line.
because your hands and pencil is moving, you feel that you're.
Yes, yes.
But many
Yeah.
of the researchers have done this research and have proven this part, that your eyes just glide across. They move in rapid jumps. So suppose there is a sentence, I'm a boy. You read I am, or maybe you read I and boy, and am a boy. It's a filler because your mind already knows the sentence pattern.
Oh my God.
So that's how the reading happens. You read only about 60 or 70% on the page, and rest your brain fills the rest, because it constantly predicts. What is really happening is your brain is predicting the sentence because you have read it before. You have read, I'm a boy, I'm a girl, these kind of sentences before. Why I was feeling stuck with classics? Because of the sentence structure. My mind was not able to predict, and it started becoming heavy on my mind. Oh my God, ये तो समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा है. Oh my God, मुझे पूरा sentence पढ़ना पड़ रहा है. But that I understood now. Back then I was just like, if classics are something itna heavy vocab hai, this, that, it's a Shakespearean language, I'm not able to understand. So I will never read classics. But back then, this is what was happening. My brain was not able to predict. And since my brain was not able to predict, it took it as a threat. And it started telling me, oh my God, you cannot do this. This is a threat. This is a threat. This is a threat. Leave it. And I left it. So you need to understand, if you want to read a book and that is not going down your alley and you still want to read a book, I'm not asking you to read and force yourself, but understand what is going on in your mind. Maybe there is a unpredictability attached to that. Like in recent example where I was giving the example that I read one book out of these 56 where I did not read the book completely. I asked Zeal to help me. She was reading the book. She was giving me daily updates that this is happening in the book. And then I was flipping through the pages. I was not reading them completely because I did not have the heart and courage to read that level of grief to understand that level of layer. Why? Not because there was no reason right now that I cannot read the grief or I cannot read the layered part. It was the unpredictability which unsettled me and kept on telling me, you will not be able to do it because it's not layered hai. So that part, the predictability increases with your reading. Your mind starts predicting, and that's how the speed increases. So it's all connected. If you're reading something which you have been reading, like say for example, Zeal used to read so much of romance books. I'm sure her speed of reading romance versus speed of reading in non-fiction or something which is newly or literary fiction, which is an altogether different genre, that would be different.
Yeah, very different. The speed
And
is more in
predictability.
the romantic fiction.
Yes. So most of the things in romance now by now has become predictable for her. Okay, this will happen. And predictability, where the predictability is, where ease is, and where the speed comes. Now the point here is, I'm not saying that read all the easy books or read all the books that you have already read, but if you're a reading slump, if you want to start, again coming back to the point that don't pick up the book that is heavy, that is unpredictable. Now, how would you understand unpredictable is that you're reading a very heavily researched book, which is something which is after a long time when you have lost touch with reading, and you started suddenly with something which is deeply researched book or something which is really taking your mind's all energy to read that. Your mind will take a refuge. It will go back. It will recoil in fear. And that's what we are avoiding through understanding that, okay, let's start with the predictability, train our mind. Some people get trained in their mind for nonfiction very easily because they have been reading nonfiction very easily. They get tough time in reading fiction because all the time that predictability has been lost. Here, all the stories are there all the theories are there. So there is nothing wrong or right. I'm just saying that what you are comfortable and what you are habituated of doing, start from there or resume from there. And that's the reason behind all this. Basically, your brain is not a camera, it is a prediction machine. The more you read, the better your brain gets at prediction. And that is why the readers experience speed. The fast readers experience speed because the prediction part becomes stronger with reading. Okay, next is very interesting, and those who have read Thinking Fast and Slow can understand it even more better. There are two minds for reading, okay? And one is the emotional mind, where the stories ignite that mind. And the other one is logical mind. So when you are doing the critic part, there's logical mind, right? A wholesome experience of reading any book, whether it is a fiction or a non-fiction, the wholesome, fully engrossed experience comes when both are in balance. Now the question is, if it is a story, how would I balance my logical mind? And vice versa. If it is a non-fiction, how would I balance my non fiction mind, the emotional mind, right? Any ideas? How do you do that? Genevieve, layered means there are multiple characters and every character has a story and every character has a very deep backstory. And then you have to connect. It's suppose it is starting from my story. I'm telling about, I'm in a grief, this. And then I find a letter of my mother, a treasure chest, and the story goes to my mother. And then mother's story, she goes to a therapist and the story goes back to her mother. Now you have to connect the dots that why I am the way I am because of my history. So you have to keep connecting the dots. So it is left much on the reader. Half of the thing has been said and half of the thing the readers have to connect the dots. That's where the layered narratives come into the scene. That mostly happens in literary fiction. Yes, Nina, thank you. You can watch the recording later. Okay, so tell me, how do you activate both the brains or how do you balance both the brains while reading a fiction or non-fiction? Because generally non-fiction can ignite only logical brain and fiction can ignite the emotional brain. How would you make it wholesome? Any idea?
So, while reading fiction, it's all about imagination or understanding the story of the character or the plot and everything. While reading non-fiction is understanding the structure behind it or
Mm.
understanding how it can help us in our like day-to-day life. Because it's all about like self-help, right? I mean, non-fiction usually is improvising yourself and everything. So
Mm.
it's basically rewiring your mind. Whereas fiction is all about storytelling. It's about the character depth. It's about the plot twist. It's
Yeah, but
about
how would you
the
ignite the logical mind there in the stories, and how would you ignite the emotional mind while reading non-fiction is what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's a deep question actually. But I mean,
I got the hang of it very recently. So what
mm,
really happens is, how do you do that? When it is fiction, there are 2, 3 ways you can do this. And trust me, the real takeaway or the learning will happen then only. Otherwise, a fiction is just a fiction. As people say, and those who look down upon a fiction के fiction से हम क्या सीखेंगे वो इसलिए नहीं सीख पाते हैं या they because they don't go deep and they don't become logical there. Now, those who know me very closely, like Zeel and Manvinder and few people, they know that when I read even fiction, I keep on asking them questions. Like something comes and I ask them, "Are yahan pe, this point of view has suddenly changed. How come this happened where this was going on? This is not the only okay. That is writer's point of view. You don't need to go that deeper, but even the story, asking yourself simple questions after the book is over, what the story was really about. One part is the story was about, okay, a girl comes and all, that is the story. But what it said to you, the story was about resilience, hope, or what? So ask yourself this always. That's where you dissect the story. And the moment you dissect the story in this way, you will start connecting it with your own life also. And the logical mind starts getting activated. Then asking yourself that what is it in the whole thing, whole story that I really liked, or I could connect with my own life in some way. Sometimes you may connect with, I was like that character in my past life, or in my previous times I was like that, or maybe I also had 2 breakups, but my way of dealing them was different, and here it is different. Okay, whatever it is coming. Third, maybe which character you felt close towards and why. It would help you to understand not just the character well, but also you will start noticing those things in real life also. Why do you like a person? Why you don't like a person? So it's not just related to the book. It's much more deeper. In fact, recently I had read some research or something where it was written, and I can't remember where, but it was written that reading enhances your empathy and reading enhances your emotional intelligence. Now, everybody says that, but what is the scientific, or how does it really happen behind the scenes? It happens because when you're reading a fiction makes you imagine so many things. They make you imagine how a person is looking when they are sad. It makes you imagine that if a person is saying a certain line, if a person is saying hello versus hello, and if that is explained well there, you are able to imagine their face. And the more you do that, the more you are able to dissect the person's body language in real also. And that's what makes you emotionally intelligent. So those people who are good readers are automatically good at understanding the non-verbal cues in people, which I am good at understanding non-verbal cues. Often it happens in funny ways. I would say that me and my husband have gone somewhere, and the other person is not comfortable answering something, or the other person is, wanting to go, but even not looking at the watch. But somewhere I sense it and I tell it to my husband, or somewhere I bring it up that, okay, let's go. Or maybe I ask the person, oh, do you want to go somewhere, or you have some appointment? But my husband is not. I'm not saying that not, or maybe he pays attention, so he will be able to do. He has his own set of abilities to notice the things which I am not able to. Like he's very good at noticing physical appearances, that the person is wearing this to the details that I don't remember. I remember the facial cues more. So that starts happening. Okay. So what we have covered, the part where reading is not natural, but we train our mind. Your eyes are reading 60%, that increases the predictability, and that increases the speed. There are 2 systems at play. One is emotional, one is logical. So we have talked about how to activate the logical brain while reading fiction. Another game-changing part is how to activate emotional brain while reading a non-fiction. And that's where I do one thing, which is, since I'm so conditioned to think in stories, I cannot stop it. It's like an automatic system in my head. But how would you do that is, when you're reading a non-fiction, start connecting it with your life. Suppose there is a quote, okay? And quotes are very much relatable. Some line is very much relatable. Things that you're underlining are getting underlined because you're relating to that. And journal about them. just 2-3 lines, and some incident from your life will come up. That's how the story part is also getting activated. That's how the storytelling from your personal life is also getting activated. So this is how you can ignite your emotional brain in a non-fiction also, connecting with your own life stories. Okay, let's move to the next part, which is, we all have heard about mirror neurons. If not, in short, there are certain connections or wiring in our head that gets activated when we are reading. Okay, when we are reading fiction or non-fiction, basically they get activated. Now these mirror neurons, if you're doing, when you're reading a character running, grieving, falling in love, your brain activates certain regions, they light up. Okay, and this is called mirror neurons or neural coping, or you can say the wires that, it's a code that is there, the wires that light together, uh, they go together. Some people say the wires that light together, they fight together, they read together. So it's basically your imagination that gets fired with that. So reading fiction is not escapism. It's actually the most sophisticated part of empathy training, and also its most efficient tool to imagine or to boost your imagination, because it's written over there. It's not like screen pe you are seeing everything ke punch laga to uska face aisa hua hua. You have to imagine that, and that's where your imagination gets boosted, mirror neurons get boosted, and empathy increases. So this is how the reading changes our mind. Another part, last 2 points of this I want to talk about, and after that we'll do one interesting exercise, is how memory and reading work together. So memory has two systems. One is working memory, short-term memory, and one is long-term memory. Okay, working memory holds about only few chunks of information at once, at one at a time. So when you're reading passively, information sits in working memory and fades within hours. Now, what does passively means and what does actively means? We'll talk about that. For something to move on to the long-term memory, what does it need? Okay. So now, what is your take on passive and active reading? Can you tell me that? Any ideas? Passive and active reading.
Active reading means you get like what is written, like what is in the writer's mind. You understand the story and everything. Passive reading is maybe you just read it. You don't understand like the depth, but you still read it to understand the story, but not knowing like, okay, why, what is the purpose of this character, or what is the character arc. I may be wrong, not sure, but
Or somewhere on that part only. Exactly.
okay.
Genevieve says passive reading is when you read like a third person. Active reading is you identify with the character. Yes, somewhat on those lines. So basically, when you're reading passively, you're just reading and getting done with it for the sake of maybe the count of books, which might seem like in my case, and which I was afraid of also. If I'm taking the book so fast, it might just be like a passive reading, which I don't want to do. I want to balance both. One part which I did, definitely I started putting reviews, which helped me a lot to retain the book, because at the speed that I was reading, as I've already mentioned. Another part is it needs repetition. Okay. How can you do repetition? Obviously, you will not read the full book again. Definitely, and I would not suggest you to do that till the, maybe you want to go back to that book and that becomes your go-to book, then it is different case. But otherwise, what you can do is go back to the underlines. Okay. Maybe if you are interested in putting on social media, that's an optional case because not everybody is active. So that's fine. But talking about that to somebody, at least one person in your life, please have at least one single person with whom you can discuss books. Otherwise, this reading game cannot go alone. It's not a lonely activity. By the way, you think that one has to sit alone and do it. Let me tell you the fact, if you keep on doing that, there would be times where you'll get fed up that, only I'm alone doing here. Everybody's reading, going outside, making fun. Everybody's going outside and having fun, and look at me, I'm reading. There will be those kind of thoughts, because it's ultimately the societal implication that starts working on you if you are not trying to work it out through your book buddies. So keep at least one or two friends, stay in that circle and discuss that book. I'm not saying that you have to discuss it at a length that you lose time on every other thing. Just discuss 4 or 5 lines. I like this thing about the book. Gradually, you will realize that if you're making it a practice, that I have to do it every time because I'm a conscious reader. I'm not just a reader, I'm a conscious reader. Gradually, you will see your pen will glide through, your words will start coming more, your observation will become sharper, the way you describe a book or the way you talk about a book will go deeper. And that you can see if you go to my Instagram and check my Instagram, my first review versus my 56th review, how much it has changed with time, how I connect the dots between other books with my life. And those kind of reflections help me. Maybe people might not be interested in reading that, but it helps me to understand the book deeper, to grasp the book deeper, to put it into the long-term memory. Kailan T says X newspaper reading is a passive reading, and a newspaper reading is a passive reading, and reading a book or something you have personal interest is an example of active reading. Yes, basically having the personal interest is what I would like to underline here, that how would you inculcate that personal interest? How is that book connected with your life? Or how did it connect or click with your life? How it has impacted you? It's not just the story. Story is one part. What did you connect in the story with? Did you connect with the, say for example, it's a book on there's a romance book that I had read recently, 7 Years Slipped, where there's a magical apartment which goes back either back to 7 years or front or forward 7 years, and it decides when it goes, and it decides where would you meet which person. So it is completely up to the apartment. You cannot do anything. And a girl inherits her aunt's apartment, that 7-year apartment. She doesn't know initially, but when the time turns and takes her back to 7 years back, she realizes that it's a magical apartment, and her aunt used to say that. Now, it's all magical story. She meets a guy, and then, later on how they come together in future and all that. What was there in the story for me? I keep on asking this question to myself. And that's where the reviews become very deeper. Okay. So if you want to retain the book, repeat it either by reviewing, repeat it either by going to the quotes, repeat it, especially how the book has brought, connected with your life. Posting or no posting is totally your call. Because you don't forget books because you have a bad memory. You forget books because you never gave your brain enough reason to hold on to it. So enough reason is pausing, reflecting, and connecting. We always say na, ki take out time for your loved ones, pause, reflect, and connect, especially for the kids. Why? Because that connection happens there when you slow down. So if reading is happening fast, it's okay, but make sure to slow down at a place where you are reflecting about it. It's not just about, earlier I used to just tell myself that it is about paying respect to the author, but that was not going down my alley. Trust me, every time I used to say that what is in it for me? If I'm doing it for the author, what is in it for me? What am I getting? And that's where you turn it towards you. You turn the game towards you. Okay, what will you get out of it? And that's where it will start becoming interesting, because every book, if you're reading, it will give you something, but not till the time you are reflecting on it, not till the time. The next part I want to talk about is getting the flow and rereading. So flow is where you lose track of time, okay? And reading can help you to do that. Now, the biggest part or the biggest skill that reading will give you is the skill of balancing, the skill of not of regulation, or the skill of, if it is the right book, it will take you to the other world. And the moment you are transported to other world, your brain relaxes. So I'm telling you the science behind it. Most of the things you know on the superficial level, I'm telling you all what happens behind it, so that we understand the whole thing fully. And then we can understand if this is not happening, what actually really happened. So your brain expands, your brain loosens, and you are in a flow state. And then you're gripped into the story with all your senses, because the words took you, made you imagine through all your senses. And regarding rereading, earlier I used to have this judgment, or I would say a prejudged notion about I will not read any book again because it's a wastage of time. इतना बुक्स पढ़ा है दुनिया में, दो इसको ही दोबारा पढ़ने बैठ गई तो हो गया ना, भले कितनी भी अच्छी हो, कितनी भी favorite हो. I have never ever read till 2026 came. I recently read one book which I had already read. Maybe you should talk to someone. Not only it was easy to read because obviously I knew the story, but this time when I read it and it looked like a completely new book to me, because the story did not change, the book did not change, but I changed as a person. I understood so many things which I did not understand before, right? So keep your go-to books ready. This is a kind of homework I keep on doing in between my like recently when I completed 56 books, since I'm part of so many book clubs, one of the book clubs, the person asked me that, since you've read so many books, can you tell me the 10 top books of this year? I said, good opportunity. Let me go back, at least reflect on that. I'll make a list. I made a list immediately. It took me just because I have the reviews ready. So it was all well organized. All I need to do just one swipe and saw, okay, these are the ones. Okay, these are the 10 ones that, and it took me 5 minutes. So if you're thinking that it all takes so much of time, it doesn't. With time, you get so trained of this that the speed becomes magical. And sometimes I even think, oh, it's so fast I did that. And you have so many tools. You can dictate it. You can send a voice note. So I use all the things that are there. So rereading, for first time, you read out of curiosity. Second time, you read to, and you start seeing some patterns, recognition, as Zeel was saying, how this is written and all that, deeper meanings, noticing what you missed. And each time you reread, I'm not saying that you reread everything, but there are some books which are really treasurable for everyone, for each one of us. And they may differ person to person, but there are some go-to books. Keep a list of that. Whenever you feel like I'm in a reading slump, go back to them and read them. Maybe consciously you might not get something very consciously, but your subconscious is always getting trained for that. It's getting re-imprinted, rewired. Okay, so read it and it will reveal something new to you, definitely. So your brain is not an obstacle to reading it, it's an instrument, but instrument needs to be nicely wired. Okay, you need to understand how it works, stop just fidgeting with it, and start understanding, okay, after this, if I play this, then it would go well. So just understand the science behind it and you'll get a grip of it. The whole sole point is to train your brain well. Okay, so before we wrap this up, there is one interesting reading identity exercise. Please take a minute. If you don't have the pen and paper ready with you, I'll ask you a few questions and you will be answering that on paper, or if you want to answer in the chat box, that's up to you. So we can begin. Okay, just give me a thumbs up once everybody has that. Give me a thumbs up or a yes that you have the pen and paper. Okay, 2 thumbs I got. And before we move ahead, this is about creating your identity. Okay, why identity? Because motivation, if you think that I need to get motivation for reading, it's just a feeling. Let me tell you, it will fleet away. Motivation is not a stable thing. Identity is a decision. You have made a choice, and that decisions only compound. A person who wants to exercise and skips the gym when tired can definitely go back and resume that. But a person who is like, oh, I want to read, cannot, or I want to exercise, versus I'm a person who daily goes to gym. I'm somebody who goes to gym daily. That person can skip 1 or 2 days, that's fine. because they know they will get back. Okay, so let's start with the part 1, identity audit. And answer these questions honestly. If you don't want to share here, fine, but be honest with the paper that you're writing on. Okay, when someone asks you about your hobbies, do you say reading, or do you hesitate, or do you not even mention reading? That's a very, simple question, but actually it plays a very important role. Just like, do you introduce yourself as a writer? How many of you say that I love reading when people say that? Okay, Zeel says I say proudly reading. Trust me, I had lost it in between. I had stopped saying that. Now I have started again consciously saying that. So you will keep on losing track if you're not very conscious about it. I say reading, interesting. Although now I don't need to say, because every time I'm carrying the book everywhere, nobody asks me that. So if you are not saying proudly in the CV and interview, but what about verbal communications? There also you can think about it. I say I read, interesting. So start saying it more. The more you start saying it, the more it will hammer your mind. I'm a reader. Okay. Next is, when you miss reading for a week, does it feel like something is missing? There's a difference between feeling like something is missing, and there's a difference between the other thing is getting frustrated about it. Okay, so which zone are you in? Or maybe you don't even remember that. Okay, yaad hi nahi raha yaar, reading nahi kiya to. I could not even remember which phase, which zone you are in. Or you just take a guilt trip that reading nahi hua. It does feel missing, but I don't feel irritated or frustrated. Okay, yes. Yes, same is happening with me. There was a time, although both are positive phases, I would say, in terms of reading, that you get frustrated, but frustrated is not the emotion that I want to operate from, because then I want to operate from ease, joy, balance. So I trained my mind that way. I changed my self-talk. So it may feel like you're missing something. That's okay. But check on your emotions that you're operating from. I'll give you a recent example, though it is related to writing, but which emotions you're operating from for reading will be your biggest detrimental factor. So once it happened, there was a book club going on, and in fact it's about remarkably bright creatures, which was a part of Twinkle Khanna's book club that I'm part of. And there, this book was book of the month. Everybody was reading it, people were posting about it, this, that. I picked up the book. I'm not saying I did not click with the book, but the book, maybe I'm yet to journal about it, but what I could understand was the sentences were bit of British English, is what I could understand. So I was and I'm maybe habituated of Indian and American English more. So every time I had to read 2-3 sentences, and the unpredictability kicked in after 50-60 pages, although the story was interesting. So first factor was that. Second was, there were so many characters which were introduced in the first 60-70 pages. So I had to connect the dots. Who is this person? And till that time, it wasn't even told. There was a chapter on a person named Cameron, but who is Cameron? Where is he coming from? That information was knowingly not given by the author. Later on, you understand. So I was a bit confused that, it's 60-70 pages and I'm not feeling. So I kept the book aside. I was like, okay. But I was feeling so frustrated because everybody was reading it. Okay, it's a Twinkle Khanna's book club. I was thinking all that in my mind. Then I sat to journal about it, why it is frustrating me so much. It's okay, it did not click. It did not click. I tried once again. Then I tried again on audiobook. I lost track again. Although audiobook was much better, I had gone almost to 50%, but I could not finish the book. It was there in my mind in spirals again and again, again and again. But then finally I heard that there's a movie coming on 8th May. So I thought, okay, fine. And then I thought, let me change the format only. I watched the movie completely within one day. So, but in between, I had to do a lot of journaling because I was doing it out of pressure. So that part, I missed it. I dropped the book, but I was feeling guilty. Despite reading all 54, 56 books, okay, I still kept that pressure on. I don't know why, but thankfully, every time journaling and reflection saves me. So I came back and I realized. Okay, Kalanji says, same Mrs. Reading, but my daughter never makes feel this irritated as I spend most of the time with them, practicing how to continue reading when daughters are busy. Interesting. Yes, Viprajeet, interesting movie. Okay, next is your reading space visible in your home or hidden away, or you don't even have a reading space? Reading space doesn't mean that you have a definite place to sit, but yes, some books in your home, or they're visible, or they are put in the boxes. So I'm very against this. Now we are about to move from this place where I'm currently living in 1 or 2 months. And my mom is like, gradually packing everything and making whatever dabbas she gets from Amazon. She keeps the dabbas and puts some stuff in that. And every time she sees my books or a new book comes, she's like, let me put it in the box. Huh? मैं अभी से pack करके रख देती हूँ. I'm like, don't touch my books. They have to be visible till the end. You touch everything else, that's fine. Don't touch my books. They have to be visible. So I will not let you touch, because books अंदर चली जाएंगी तो मुझे कुछ दिखाई नहीं देगा आसपास books. I want to see the books all around. And she always, हमारा बहुत सारा sweet banter हो जाता है कि why are you so bad? तुम्हें जो रखनी है, you keep 2-3 books outside ना. Fine, those are also books invisible. I tell to her कि please आप बस keep my books aside, spare my books, you do everything else, that's fine with. So how much is your book space visible to you? And follow-up question is, do you have books reach within your arm's reach always or not? Always as in obviously not always, but most of the times, at least at arm's reach. Ke, okay, phone jitna paas pada rehta hai. Basically, you have phone with you all the time. So compared to that, how much close your books are with you physically? Okay, next question is, how your identity actually formed. Okay, so whatever your not dedicated corner book space is not visible, so you can work on that. You can keep it visible, at least keep it at arm's length, at least 2-3 books. Okay, so next is identity declaration exercise. Right now you may or may not have the reader's identity, but we'll declare it today. So step 1 is old story. Now story will take time. What I'm here asking you is that write down honestly the story or the belief that you tell about reading. So say for example, 2-3 liners, one bullet points, that reading is tough, or maybe whatever thoughts are coming, positive, negative, doesn't matter. Write them down. Oh, I'm in a huge reading slump, it doesn't feel like, or maybe, oh, look at that person is reading so much. Whatever thoughts are coming to your mind, first part is write down all those thoughts on paper. A book that you're not able to read, write that down. I'm not able to read this book because, or I'm not liking this book because. Point number 1, because. Point number 2, because. Point number 3, because. And trust me, when you put it on paper, many pointers will come. So whether it is regarding reading one particular book, or whether it is regarding reading any kind of book, write down your thoughts. At least 2-3 you write down right now, because the next step is connected to that. So maybe something like, I start but I never finish, I'm too busy, or maybe I'm not a reader. Any such thoughts that are coming to your mind. And just excuse me for a moment, I was getting an urgent call. Meanwhile, you give me a thumbs up. Okay, so I'm back. At least 2-3 thoughts written. Can anybody tell me at least one thought here, so we experiment on that only in the chat box, or maybe unmute? Okay, reading empowers my mind, increases my creativity. I'll pick up the negative ones to recreate the identity. Reading gives us a silent, okay, these are very good positive thoughts. I'm asking about any limiting thoughts that you got on paper regarding reading. I'm not a reader, I don't have time, or this book is too big, or I start but never finish. Good, good. If you're clear, then great. So those who haven't got anything, just pick up one imaginary one so that we go to the next exercise. So I'm not a reader, or maybe I start, never finish. Just imagine that you have one of that. So next time when you do this exercise, you can do it by your own. Okay, so picked up one negative or limiting belief. Reading, exercising every day, want to build reading predictability, want to choose my preferred genre. It means you don't have the preferred genre right now, and you don't have reading as exercise as every day right now. So those are the limiting thoughts, right? I'm assuming that reading is good for my mind. Reading books on philosophy takes time. These all things happen, but what are your thoughts about reading, you reading it? Are you able to read? Are you a good reader? Are you a fast reader? Are you a slow reader? What do you think about you as a reader? Okay, so let's pick up Biprajit's one of the examples, as he said, yes. So suppose he wants to inculcate reading in every day. Right now, he doesn't have that. So I don't read every day is the limiting thought. Okay. Now, next step, okay, I'm a slow reader is a limiting thought. Okay. Now, the next step is to ask yourself, where is this story coming from? If you're saying you're a slow reader, which of the examples or experiences that you have seen and made a conclusion that I'm a slow reader? If that is a negative, slow readers are a positive thought also, okay, by the way, okay. If you're thinking it as a negative and you want to read fast, then. So where is this story coming from? It may come from, if you want to read fast, it may also come from teachers, especially, who might reprimand you saying that, read fast, no, read fast, why don't you read fast? It may come from that. It may come from comparison also, that, somebody is reading this much. It may come from a phase of life that pulled you away. It may come from one of the many books that did not click with you. That's why you were going slow. So trace it back. Time to trace this thought as a second step. Where is it coming from? Time constraints. How much time do you want, Biprajit? The question to follow up is that. We have talked about this, time constraints. Because we make a very bigger picture, which was a case with me in writing. I left writing in between because I had made a very bigger picture that I'll write only for an hour, because I used to write only for an hour, not lesser than that. So anything lesser than that is not considered as writing. So the writing game completely got demolished because of this thought. Then I trained my mind and told myself that even 5 minutes writing is okay. And then I started building up, and that's how my 6th book came into the scene. 30 minutes got it. Yes. So even if not 30 minutes, as I said, 1 minute is fine. You start and then you build up, just like exercise. So all this while, why this was coming as a time constant is because you had a very bigger picture of reading in mind. Time to wipe off that picture and draw a new picture of time constant. To elaborate time management and priorities for our hobby is what we are missing. Yes, because what is the thought behind that? Do you think that a hobby needs 1 hour, 2 hours? Do you think that there is a very lot of concentration is needed in reading? All of this is, I'm telling you, all of this is futile. Even with little concentration, you can start reading. The concentration builds up with reading. It doesn't start with reading. It builds up with reading. You start reading and it will build up. Okay. So second step is you trace the thought where it came from. Third step is to rewrite this. Now, here is the sentence. I am someone who, I am a reader who dash fill it up. Maybe, for example, I am a reader who takes it at my own pace, or I am a reader who decides what is my time of reading. I am a reader who is not worried about what to read next. I am a reader who doesn't compare. It can be positive and negative, both sentence. Who doesn't do this or who does that, whatever is coming to your mind. Write down as many identity sentences as you can. And this exercise, without even the previous 2, 1, if you do it daily, you will find so many reasons of inculcating this identity. I am a reader who and dash fill up. Let's do one sentence each. I am a reader who. So from my side, I'm a reader who knows that there will be good reading days and bad reading days, and I'm okay with it because I know how to come back to reading. Quickly, this part, and then the last part of the workshop will be there. I am a reader who loves imagining the story. Interesting. So one more thing here, when you're saying I'm the reader who, after that, what you're filling up should be something which you're aspiring to, not which you're already doing. Okay, you're already doing, that is there, but you're aspiring to. So what is really happening? The identity of a reader is getting connected with the aspiring habit that you want to connect with. Okay, so if you're already imagining the story, chuck that and pick up something which you want to do now, or which you're trying to do now. I'm a reader who tries to learn something from book. Okay, if you're already doing that, then pick up something else. I'm the reader who wants to dissect the stories from writer's lens. Interesting. I'm a reader who do it by choice, who loves reading to be with himself, who finds joy in reading, and who is exploring more fun with books. Interesting. Great. So this I'm a reader exercise will help you a lot. I'm a reader who lags a bit in priorities between family, professional life, working and on balancing same. Second, I'm a reader, which in turns goes to become a writer, and that pauses me many times. Very interesting. I'm a reader who wants to write books. Very interesting. See how you are shaping one aspiration to the identity part and how it will take you. The more you, at least 2-3 sentences every day, if you write, that's fine. And do it for a month and you will see how just by writing, I would not emphasize more on the power of writing it down. Just do it and see it. Okay. Next part is the environmental design that we have talked about. And before that, I want to talk about something that you can look forward to as the next part. Just give me one moment. Okay. Is my screen visible? I mean, am I visible? Okay, fine. Because I'm not. All right. So let me talk about this tiny program. I hope the screen is visible to you guys. So there would be a PDF of notes that I'll give you. And this is the Reading Circle lifetime membership that I'm talking about. Don't leave, even if you're not taking part, that's fine, because there's one last part of exercise that's remaining after this. So it is a 999 for lifetime, starts on 25th May. Okay, what all is included is by the end of it, you will not just be reading more, but also you'll be reading right. You'll have a community that really matters, where 2 live sessions would be there. One on the reading tips or something from my own experiences. Another would be a book dissection where we'll come together and talk about one certain book. There would be a fiction and non-fiction curation, which I anyway do on Writernaama, but there would be something more in this membership, where reading reflection worksheets would be there, reading accountability, weekly check-ins, reading streaks, and private group of only sincere, serious readers would be there. Okay. What we cover month by month, there are some topics that I have listed here. Sometimes I'll talk about the how to choose the right book, the 30-minute reading habit, how to do that with the NLP-backed principles, how the 3-layer recall system, what is that, reading slump killer, we will be talking about reading in every format and how to switch and be flexible and still make the most of it, building the 12-month reading plan if you are a planner, and if you're not, so just like in writing, some people write with a plot defined plan and some people write randomly. There are reading also, it happens randomly at different phases of your life. What I will help you here is with the awareness, which phase is there and how you can switch and shift and be okay with it. Building your reading list, speed reading techniques would be there. Note taking for non-fiction versus fiction would be there. Emergency book strategies would be there. Genre stacking and parallel reading would be there. And advanced readers playbook would be there. And there will be many more, as it is a lifetime part. So every month there would be a session for that. So this is what I wanted to talk about. The Google Pay part is given here, and it is starting from 25th. So if you feel that books are your calling, reading is your calling, you're most welcome. Okay. Next part I want to talk about, coming back to the part again, and next part that I want to talk about is the identity shifting that we have done. Now the language shift. Okay. So one part is identity and all inside mind, but the language that you're using is also very important. So how many of you say this in your mind, I should read more? If yes, then you can just raise your hand or do a thumbs up. I should be reading more. I have to read more. I have to read books. I should read books. Yes or no? Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. The first part that we will remove today is shoulds from our life. Because should is an implication that we have borrowed because we have seen people doing that more. Okay. So we don't know our definition of more, by the way. What is more? 2 books more, 2 pages more. Either you define what is more for you. When you're saying, I want to read more, what is more for you? 2 pages more? Or 2 books more? Or monthly 2 books more? What is that more? Define that more if you want to be specific about that. Then you will understand, and then match that. Is this should coming from because everybody is reading 4 books a month? So remove that should part. Instead, you change this sentence to I love reading. I love reading. Rest all will be taken care. So every time the sentence comes up, change it to I love reading. And you'll start seeing the difference. Next is I'm trying to read. Instead of that, I'm making a choice to read. I'm trying to read, but I'm not able to read. Instead of that, whenever you say I'm trying to read, I'm not getting time, tell yourself, it means I'm not making a choice to read. Because 2 minutes, everybody, regardless of Narendra, you being a Narendra Modi, also you can take 2 minutes trying to read. So let's not talk about not having time anymore. We all have time for the things that we prioritize and that we really give importance to. Okay. So 2 minutes are fine. And that 2 minutes will definitely convert to 20 minutes, but don't pressurize. It will come naturally when you start loving reading. And how would you start loving reading? By reading the predictable parts, reading light reads, that's okay. It's not a crime to read fictions, or it's not a crime to read love stories. In fact, your mind gets a different, when you read fiction, as I said, your different mind gets activated. When you read non-fiction, your different mind gets activated. Non-fiction readers who are thoroughly non-fiction readers, if you make them write versus a fiction reader, if you make them write, you'll see a difference in their writing skills also. I'm not saying something would be good, something would be bad, but something would be missing here and something would be missing there. For sure. Fiction readers will be able to write the emotional punch really well. They would be very good at connecting the dots. Non-fiction reader would be good at, research and that part, because that's what they've been reading. What you take in is what comes out. And that is why the balance of both is important. Next is, I don't have time. That we have already talked about. Then I make time for reading. Now, the game changer is, I used to read, but I'm not reading anymore. If you are in a reading slump, instead of that, you say, I'm in a reading slump, but I'm getting back to reading. The more you say this while conversations, while to yourself, while talking to yourself, the more your mind starts believing. Mind just works on repetition, whether it is reading, whether it is exercising, it just works on repetition. It's nothing else. It's more repetition. I'm not a big reader, great reader, whatever. I'm not a consistent reader. I'm not a classic, tough fiction reader, something like that. Just change that sentence and say, I'm building my reading life. I'm exploring my reading interest on my own. And it may look very trivial that how would these sentences may shift something, but the things that you talk to yourself, and NLP is all about that. The things that you talk to yourself are the things that change your perspective. no matter what people are saying. But if you have made that as a self-talk, then you need to think. So that was from my side. And I will give this complete 12 pages notes to you as PDF in the group immediately just after the workshop. So you guys can have a look at that. And that's why I said notes are not necessary. It's very well compiled over there. So that's it from my side. Thanks for being here. This was totally done with an impulse of thinking that, why don't I share my reading journey? So it's from there, whether you are joining the 991 or not, but be a part of Writernaama. There is a book writing club and also a book club where we talk about books, Writernaama book club. Join there. There are lively discussions that have restarted again. In between, I had lost track of that. So be there and just be a part of any community, not all, so that your reading stays intact. Okay, thank you so much. Any parts from your side that stayed with you, that worked as a light bulb moment, do share, and then we are good to go. Most welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, the reflection part is missing here. The session cannot be grasped well if you don't think about it again and think that what really clicked with me. Maybe you can have a look at notes and then think about it and type in the group. Thank you. Thank you, Zee. Okay. So bye-bye. Take care.